And now, from Grid Square Echo Mike 48, this is 100 Watts and a Wire.
Well. Hello and welcome to 100 Watts and a Wire. It's Christian. My call sign is Kilo Zero Sierra Tango Hotel. And you know, this is a podcast about amateur radio. And for over a century, ham radio has significantly contributed to the advancement of modern technology. It doesn't take too much more than looking at names like Tesla and Hertz, Marconi, and Samuel Morse, because those guys laid the foundation for what we enjoy today. And 100 Watts and a Wire features the intersection of life and amateur radio. We're going to be talking about Field Day. It wrapped up earlier today. We record on Sundays, 6 o'clock Central Time. And I believe Field Day wraps up 1 o'clock Central, 2 out East, Waka Waka. 24 hours of pure love. Give it to me. Give it. Woo! Oh, all right. It's a little tardy there, dude. You got to get with the stuff. I'm talking to Ric Flair personally. Scotty's here. What's going on with you, Scotty?
Howdy. Just settling back in, recovering from a wonderful field day weekend with the family and throwing wires and trees and having a good old time.
It seems as though you and I both kind of had the same thing in mind. I set up on Friday early. I took about 90 minutes. This was not your typical, let me just back up and say that it used to be that Field Day was to sort of get your emergency communications stuff sorted out. And then what happened was that amateurs got so good at it, they kind of needed to make it into like a contest. All right, there, I said it. Because they could put it up, then what are you going to do all day, right? So, but at its roots, it had, emergency communications in mind. And as we talk throughout, this hour, we'll talk about what it is and what it isn't, that kind of thing. But what I like to do, I like to set up in the old wooden shed. The old wooden shed is on the edge of the property, actually the edge of the woods. So it's kind of thick and dense, partially open. And I go out there with no electric, and I try to put my mind in a position like, okay, do I have what I need to kind of get a signal out? What antenna should I try? This sort of thing. And so I give myself my own personal goal, I guess you would say. And for the audiophiles that are listening to the thing, and Scotty said we might get some emails, because the fan is on. It was 96 degrees at 7:30 p.m. and I stopped looking. 96 degrees here. Today was better, but a storm came up. So pardon the fan tonight. I'm going to do this one with a fan on, okay? You'll forgive me. It was just hot as hell. It was hot as hell out there in that old wooden shed. And I got out there and I opened it up on Friday. Some of the purists may be saying, we set up on Saturday. Yeah, I know. After you eat your breakfast and you have your donuts and then you meet with the buddies and you gab in the parking lot. And don't give me any crap. Don't give me crap. I know what you guys do out there. So anyway, after post-op, I was like, let me just take it easy. And Scotty, my decision was made clearly on weight this year. It was really based on getting things out really slowly where I needed them, getting them staged early. And I went with the antenna I went with, which is basically 3 wires, 2 ends, 2 elements going down, much like an off-center fed. I think technically it fits in that Carolina Wyndham category, the way I have it. It has a balun at the bottom that connects to coax and runs to my radio. I had it up about 32 feet. And it was doing a great job. It would work on 15, 17, 20, and 40 without anything. I did touch it up a little bit, because we'll talk about that in a little bit. Why I touched it up and some of the things that go on during Field Day. I don't want to jump ahead. But I took about 90 minutes, which is not breaking any records anywhere anyhow. But for me, it was a casual stroll. And on Saturday, I was just like, okay, we're cool. Everything's set up, good to go, and took it from there. But I didn't have the intention on making 1,000 contacts or breaking a personal goal for contacts. In fact, some of you who may be here as we record this live tonight were there for a live stream that came up impromptu around 6 o'clock last evening. Didn't even know it was going to work. I've had really terrible experiences out there with Wi-Fi connections and keeping it going and all this. I mean, holy heck. But to its credit, we got about 2 hours out, and I made 4 contacts total, right? All right, I lose. Like, if they were to look at numbers, they would be like, yeah, K0SDH, last place. But that's all right. That's okay. Because my idea was just set up. You know, I enjoy the setup of it. So go ahead, for our friends who are here tonight, who come around on Sundays at 6 o'clock, our podcast listeners are invited here to join us, participate, engage. What are your goals? What are your goals when you take on field day? Mine was to actually get it up. Damn it. It's not what I mean. It's not what I mean. It's not it. Let me tell you what that means later. I'll see you on Monday, Sherry. Sorry, Sherry. So we went with a 32 feet mast. We went with what was the basically. I don't want to speak too soon because the person may say that's not true. But Radio Waves was making an antenna. I think they still have on the market called the Pathfinder. And all their stuff is really named after some military type stuff because Emmett, who owns the company or did own the company, I haven't checked recently. I'll have to drop him a line and see. He was putting together this portable thing that could fit in your glove box. So he built this balun, he built this antenna, and it was like he called me the master beta for a beta tester, and I didn't get the connection right away, and I was like, oh, after he left, I was like, oh, that ain't right. Give him the fist in the air as he drove off. So anywho, I've remade this thing several different times. I've tried a couple different, and it works, man. It gives me 4 bands, works like a Carolina Wyndham. There you go. So anyway, 4 contacts actually during a live stream, and Scotty was one of them. And then we had one in New Hampshire. I always seem to do better during the day to the east for some reason. I don't know if the west is just not running or I'm just not, in the right spot at the right time, that kind of deal. But anywho, now what Scotty likes to do, he's got a little thing carved out, and I really dig this because it's a family thing. Tell us about your setup and what you do on field day.
Oh yeah, so our field days turn into a family thing. So it's we grill out, get some, or sometimes we'll order a bunch of pizzas. But we set up out. My brother's got a nice yard, overlooks the valley down in Frederick, Maryland, and we set up the 10x10 pop up, pull out the tables. And I have a couple solar panels, and then we have a couple lithium iron phosphate batteries, and then we just kind of like cycle batteries. And then there's probably a battery in the garage that's charging at the same time too. And we don't spend a whole lot of time on the radio. If the radio's on, we're always listening, and I'll fiddle through and make a few contacts, and we'll sit around and visit. And my mom's in a wheelchair now, and so I brought her out, and she's out in the yard soaking up some sun, and we're playing radio. My brother's helping me toss wires around and help me get the off-center fed dipole that I made. He has one of these arborist slingshots, one of those 6-foot ones that you have to kind of lay on the ground and then launch it, and it'll shoot a projectile like 150 feet in the air. We were able to get the off-center fed dipole up about 75 feet at the apex. It was an inverted V, and it was just good fun. And we operated till I don't know, probably about midnight last night, and then with the headlamps on, packed it all up. I threw all the stuff in the garage. I'm going back up there on Tuesday. I'll sort it all out then. We just kind of tossed it in the garage, and I drove the hour or so back home to Ellicott City last night. So that's kind of our thing. It was a slow setup, but the setup is a big part of the fun as well. And it's a kind of a family event. Everyone's hanging out. My mom's laughing at us while me and my brother are trying to toss sandbags up in the trees with some fishing line, and then pulling stuff up and missing and cursing and then throwing frisbees for the dogs all during the whole time that's going on. So it's a lot of fun.
It's great. You're making memories, man. That's what's really cool about it. You know, it's a thing. And my girls will do the drive-by because I'm out there at the edge of the woods. They're out there running, doing their thing. And so my early field days will be packed with those memories of me and my kids staying around. And I totally get it while people go out with their clubs. There was so many people that were on the Discord sharing their clubs. I even asked about clubs on Facebook. If you still do Facebook, a very active group there, over 14,000 people. And I was like, tell me about your club. Tell me about the club you're running with. I mean, tons of people still very active. And I believe that Field Day is the absolute most popular amateur radio event that there is. It may not be my favorite. It might be, I don't know. I love 13 Colonies a lot. But anyway, we can talk about that. And Route 66 is pretty cool. The 12 Days of Christmas gives you something fun to chase. But 13 Colonies is something, and we'll get into that a little later. Now, Scotty, he found out that we were streaming last night. Just a quick pause to thank for the super chat, $5. Hey now, TC Fitz. You're 5'9". Thank you, brother. We appreciate that. Or sister. I don't know who that is, but I'll thank you very much. So I'm streaming, hot, melting. You can go back and watch it on the tubes if you'd like to. And that's how we use YouTube, is to do the live streams. And Scotty jumps into the chat. He didn't know that we were streaming. I didn't know I was going to do it either. I ended up, my daughter had a sleepover. There was a lot going on in the house. I'm like, this is perfect timing. Perfect timing. So we'll try it. I had low expectations because of the Wi-Fi and location. Anywho, I'm going out there, and here's Scotty running on 40 meters because it turns out his effing antenna is 75 feet in the air, and he's dragging balls on people. I was like, wait a minute. Wow, man, this is like, I'm like, so I gave you a straight up true signal report. I'm like, you're 5'9" plus, but it was really hard to know if it was all you or these adjacent signals, which are just in between pushing up. You know what I mean? They're just crammed in, and that's a topic on my list for today, is to talk about how the 3KC thing, nah, not today, that kind of thing. But then they'd stop talking, and Scotty was 5'9" plus something, and I was like, damn, look at him. So that height and the atmosphere that your brother's place gives you, man, is definitely something sexy for sure. You had to pile up.
That was the best field day outing I've had from there, as far as just getting out and making contacts and stuff. So it was that made it extra fun, on top of having a good time with it already. So
I want to thank our friend Bruce. He was here today, KG5YUO. Our podcast audience, some are here hanging out with us, but as you listen, you won't be able to see this. But over my shoulder, you see K0STH made out of this oak, this piece of oak, and it's back here on my shelf. I wish I could show all of our listeners right here, but it's beautiful, and thank you, Bruce, for making. I don't know how you do such a thing, but man, there's a skill set out there making the wood stuff. So K0STH now represented back there on the bookshelf. Thank you very much, Bruce. So everybody wants to work Scotty. Scotty's got a 5'9" plus signal. Pushing through, I was like, listen at him. Look at him going. He's going, hon. Look at him go. That guy's got a little Old Bay on his signal.
Got some Old Bay.
Put a little Old Bay on it. How many contacts did you finish with? Or what was your goal? Maybe that's a better question.
So I don't really have a goal. That's one of the cool things about Field Day as well. It's about spending time with the family, having fun with and around the radio. But there's no goal. If I could have 0 contacts, I'd have as much fun as if I had made 1,000 contacts. So I think I have a manual log. So I have to go through and count. I haven't put it in yet, but I'd say I probably throughout the whole day yesterday, not a ton of contacts, maybe 45 or 50. The bulk of which were the pileup that you happened to catch on the stream.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, go back and check out Scotty running on 40 meters. It was great. There are some things, and we can keep it funky here. In the terms of keeping it funky, I think that there's some things that people need to keep in mind when they run on, And when we was just starting off, I was moved to post on our Facebook group that there's a field day amateur tip. Here's a tip for you. Listen for and learn the exchange. It really is something, like some people are taking this very seriously. They're trying to make contacts. Now, I don't hear any people running operators going, "You jerk. Like, why did you call me? You don't even know what the exchange is. You're just slowing me down." I never hear that. I really never hear that, but it feels like that. It feels like, oh God, you're calling him and you don't really know. And then he's helping them through it, which is the ham way, by the way. It is like you're helping them understand the exchange. And the exchange is the information that you need to give to the station that's calling. Okay, seems pretty simple, but look, I just put it up there because one of the first ones out of the gate, the dude didn't know what to do. He didn't know if he was a battery. He didn't know what the thing, I'm like, oh. So I feel for the ops, but I got to say, to the operator credit, they never broke down and said, "You dip ass, D-bag, figure it out," because it's not our way, right? We don't do that. It's easier for us since you've already started to log the contact, whether you're doing this because it's easy now because you've got to finish this thing because you're already in the system of your own logging software, or that you've got a big heart. I'd like to go with the big heart part. It feels awkward when that happens. And so I posted that up there. And there were some other things, Scotty, that came back. Ari says you could look up the ARRL's website for the contest rules or field day rules. And I was like, bingo, cool. I didn't mean to upset anybody, but a couple of these things started coming back. Like, here's some other things you could do. Dave says, enunciate your call sign clearly and slower. Another good tip. These are sort of these tips here for just kind of maybe new operators who want to get in there, and next thing you know, it's, you're clogging up the system a little bit. John, he says, let's see. No, Jason, he says, listen twice, talk once. That's the old Carpenter thing. Measure twice, cut once. Listen twice, talk once. 2 ears, 1 mouth. That's what he says. That's from Jason. Totally. Vinny says, use phonetics. I can't believe I have to say that. But you do hear some strange thing. You'll hear just people calling, K0STH. You wouldn't hear that. But, insert whatever call sign. And they don't do the phonetics, or they'll do a version of a phonetic that's a little, what? You hear it in contests, and there could be an argument there for if you're working some DX stations. Sometimes they hear different things in English, and you might change it to, but, you'll hear Yokohama.
Beer can, water bottle, scissors. Like, what?
Yeah, I'm not doing King Zero Shake the House on field day. So, anyway, Stairway to Heaven, maybe, but a couple other ones came in. Butch, he says, on CW, slow down if you are called at a slower speed, QRS. Then you can go back to 40 words per minute. And that's a big one for our friends doing the Kier. On field day, avoid saying and standing by when calling CQ. You might lose your frequency, and S&P Ops will pass you because there's no signal. That's from David. So just a couple of things in terms of, hey, maybe this will help you next time. Maybe it'll help you in the big contest. Look, just good operating procedure on that sort of thing. And late today, because, it's not a contest for me. I get it. I get why this is the kind of thing that gets people upset. And then we'll move on and talk about what you guys want to talk about. I heard a guy call on 14 300, which is the Maritime Mobile. The dude was running a net, man. It wasn't even quiet. You know, he was like, if there's any ships at sea, if someone's drowning and a big crest is killing you, please call me now. I'd love to save your life, is kind of how it felt. There was no, is the frequency in use. First of all, this is a bucket of worms here, Scotty. Yes, the Maritime Mobile does not own that frequency. We know this. There was an active net going on the frequency that they often use every day for as long as I can remember. It was working. They had the frequency. Let me put it out there that way. They were on the frequency using it actively. And this brother just jumped in. You know, QRZ Field Day, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, oh no. You know, and there's a feeling of like, have we failed these ops? You know, like, have we failed trying to teach them QRZ? And the guy's trying to make this contact. And he's being nice and he's saying, I'm sorry, there's another guy calling a contest on the frequency. He's interfering, but the guy can't hear it. He's Field Day QRZ. And I posted on our Discord about it. I was just like, oof. It's one of those things. It's an etiquette thing that goes back to, it's not like all things are off when there's a field day. I know they get in within 3 kc. I know things are happening and it's crazy and it's hard to hold a frequency. All this, but you can't forget that you can't just go running over something and somebody that's already there. So that was another side of that. And I think that's what hurts us with Field Day, because some of the old school heads are just sort of like, yeah, this is what they do, man. This is what they do. This is why we don't like this, because of this dude.
Right.
Any thoughts on that? Did you hear any shenanigans?
Nothing like stepping on a maritime net, but I did hear a lot of folks participating that didn't quite know what sort of station they had, or the kind of the exchange that was expected. And you're right, there was I didn't hear anybody be like, get the heck out of here with what are you doing calling? And the people were patiently, maybe a little begrudgingly, but patiently walking them through. All right, well, how many radios are you using? Are you hooked up to a battery? Are you are you home? Are you using power out of the house? And kind of coaching them through their various sections and stuff. But that's about it. I didn't really hear anybody kind of rudely stepping on something like a maritime net, but yeah, a lot of that. It's a lot of coaching, and then the 3 kc thing. It didn't exist at all. It's so tough, and it's like that with a lot of contests, especially Field Day. It's just kind of finding your little slice there to do your business. Even just chasing stations without trying to park and bark. If I'm just bouncing around, it's everything's so tight. I got the filters cranked in tight. I'm shifting up and down a little bit, trying to find that little bit of filtering that's going to allow me to pull out a few call signs and make a contact. It's tough, but it's part of the challenge and part of the fun as well, for me anyway.
I think there's some ops out there who are just like, you know what, man, screw it. It's Field Day. They can't catch all of us. And it's like when you're at the concert and somebody jumps the turnstile and it's just like a general admission and everybody pushes through and like, I'm going up, and whatever happens, they can't catch us all kind of thing. And, it's kind of lame in that way, but I don't know. Maybe I'm getting to the point now, just 10 years in, where I kind of cringe. And because it's so hard, you're not going to convert anybody who doesn't dig Field Day. It's just, they don't get it. They don't want it. Cool. They'll take a nap and go read a book or whatever. But that's the reason. Like, that's part of the reason why they don't dig this, is because we seem to push aside the etiquette of how we're supposed to operate generally. And, and I found a couple of rag chews. It's really funny. Again, posted them on.
That's the best, finding a rag chew in the middle of all that chaos.
Right in the middle of hell, and you can tell them off. You can tell them too, because they're just like, Yeah, so I don't know. I think I'll probably get myself a new window. And on the side, it's like, and then, so anyway, I don't know. I guess the contest started, that kind of stuff. And they'll hang out. They're in their spot. They're holding that little section, and it's okay. I want to take a quick little break here. Let's take a break, and we got some business to take care of. I want to tell you about This Week in Radio. June 23rd, 1891, Tesla. We mentioned him up at the top. A very important, one of my favorites. My favorite of all the names I've mentioned and the people. Tesla's my favorite. He granted patent 451622 for his design of a coupled tuned RF oscillator. On June 24th, 1910, Public Law 262, good band name too, by the way. Kick It. I say kick it. Got to get a new drummer. It requires radios and radio operators to be on board ocean-going ships. On June 29th, 1904, Edison, who I've got a weird relationship with Edison. That fella had a little bit of cash.
It felt a little weird putting a Tesla and Edison together in the radio history today, I have to admit.
He kind of was an opportunist, and he had the dough to make things happen where other people didn't. That's kind of how Edison rolled. He received a patent, incidentally, kick it, for the alkaline battery. So Edison, going back into the history books, Edison had some dough, and he would pay people to come work for him. He would take and buy patents from people, do it, and move faster because he had the cash. It's Caysh. Cash.
Cash me outside.
Cash is king. We'll let you know 100 Watts in a Wire is produced by Triptone Media for content creation and consulting to voiceovers, narration, and imaging. Kick it. Check out Triptone Media online at triptonemedia.com. Scotty, we got some events that are happening, and here we go. We've mentioned all the big fellas today, all you heavy hitter radio folks. Let me get you. Let me go ahead and get you
let's keep the party with the big names rolling here with the Marconi Memorial HF Contest, CW, happening. That event's happening next weekend, July 2nd, 1400 Zulu to July 3rd, 1400 Zulu. So that's one of the bigger contests next weekend. And then we have the New Zealand Amateur Radio. They have their memorial contest is happening next weekend as well. July 2nd through July 3rd. The contest is held every year since 1946 to commemorate those New Zealand amateur radio operators who lost their lives in World War II. So that is a single sideband and CW event. So that's also happening next weekend.
All right, very good. If you have questions, put a Q in front of it, and we will try to answer those for you. People are saying, here's a question for you. Where's that song? Scotty. You can actually hear Scotty on this one.
I'm right here, man.
I am right here, man. They're going to put me in a home. I'm too young to go in a home. Sidecar Steve. They want to know where's Sidecar. He's been absent. People send me messages. They're called the PMs. That's what the kids do it. We used to call the PM the post-menstruals back in med school. But now PM means send me a note in my box or whatever. It's true. And he's out. He's traveling. He's on vacation, running around and enjoying himself. I think he's got a wedding to go to and all those sorts of things. So let us know now what you feel about Field Day. James has chimed in, says generally folks are happier when they lower their expectations. Field Day is a chance to make people dislike amateur radio. Try not to be that guy. Which is, which is true. I just think that, the guys are sitting at home. They don't want to participate in it. They're not setting up, or maybe they've hit an age where they're not doing that, or they're not getting out. Who knows what everybody else is dealing with? It's tough, though. The 3KC thing, not policed. And I wanted to ask you and ask our audience. You guys, all the links are in the description of the podcast, the live streams. You can send your comments and that sort of thing. You can drop us a message, whatever you'd like. I want to know what you think about. Number one, do you think all the people were using just 100 watts? Scotty, what's your gut tell you?
My gut tells me no. No, I do think a fair amount of people were playing by the rules, just based off of the the ability of or the observation of people not hearing each other. There's a lot of people calling CQ on top of each other and not hearing each other. So, and I didn't really notice any extremely booming stations. Now the propagation was a little weird yesterday, um, but I don't. I'm sure there were some folks that were running, they were running with boots on and not barefoot. But I don't think it was. It's certainly not to the extreme that it's been in the past. But that's it. So I think a fair amount of people played by the rules or close to it. Maybe instead of pushing 1,500 watts, they dialed their amp batch about 300.
Do you think it
Just slip under the
will?
radar.
Do you think it will stick? This is one of those things where they kind of changed the game significantly. Now, 100 watts at 75 feet or 100 feet on top of a tower, that's a big difference. That's going to get you some gain on the science side of town. Scotty was as loud as I've ever heard him, +5 at least, coming into the shed. Big Pap says he was thinking the power limits were contributing to people walking all over each other simply because they couldn't hear each other. And that's true. You would often have multiple ops. You'd hear one off in the distance down low in the noise, and then maybe the one you might be trying to work, or vice versa, that sort of thing. But what do you guys think? You think the 100-watt thing will stick? I think it's great, just because when I'm portable, that's what I'm running. I love all my watts, and my low-power brother's doing 5 watts with the whatever radios they're using. More power to you. Up on soda, I totally get it. Totally support you. I'm a 100-watt guy. I love those amount. But I find it hard to even hold a frequency. I was impressed that Scotty and many others that we know, I'm sure, actually could hold a frequency without getting smushed, man. I always felt like the little kid in the playground who was getting the stiff arm and my arms are flailing like, I'll get you one day. I will. As they push me down into the mud and take my frequency from me. That's how the tune-up and our operating events even came to be, was the hope of leveling just a day where you couldn't get smashed all day long for 24 hours.
Yeah, I got smashed eventually. It's the antenna height definitely made a huge difference in my ability, my signal strength getting out. But I was running 100 watts on my Yaesu FT450. It's my go-to portable rig, and I held up for a while. Then the walls started closing in, and then all of a sudden there's a station, a loud ass station on top, CQ Field Day, right on top of me, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? I had a good run. Time to go get a couple slices of pizza. I'll be back.
I feel like there are definitely some stations down there that are just like, and maybe it's it's kind of this honor system, and who are we without our honor, and who cares if you're like a big station and you get together with your buddies over the last 15 plus years. You got Yagis on the thing and they're huge, and you've got amps, the coolest, stylish thing. I feel like I'm out there, Kilo 0, and then you're like, QRZ, and you're like, Jesus, man, like, where'd that guy come from? Yeah, thank you. They're 1, or we're 15 Alpha. That kind of thing. Whatever it is, 15 Bravo. So I heard a couple of stations, and I was like, ooh, man, I don't know about that. But then you think about the science of it. It's hard to prove. Who's going to triangulate the signal? Only they know what they're doing. But, man, boy, you more power to you, man. It's not to say, and Scotty's proof of it. He put 100 watts out at 75 feet, which is higher than any antenna I've ever had up in my life.
Me too. That's first for me.
Were you pulling it up there, and then you were like, oh, we better attach another piece of coax before it slips away?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's I had a 100-foot piece of coax that I usually use for that antenna, and I only usually ever get it up 35 feet on a good day. And I'm pulling, my brother's watching, and I'm pulling it up, and then I'm watching the balun and the cable go up, and I'm getting a lot of resistance because it's getting heavy. I'm not used to pulling it that high up into the sky. I'm like, he's like, no, man, you got like another 20 feet. I'm like, you sure, man? I feel like I'm going to break this thing. He's like, no, man, keep going. I'm like, okay.
And Mama's laughing at you, too.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Greg said it was a good leveling the playing field. Only exception was net guy slamming all over everyone running 1,000 watts or 1,500 watts. Yeah, and those guys weren't moving, and I guess they feel like that's cool. I was here first, and whatever. I don't know. Nets are interesting. Sunday night for our net, there is power involved. Uncle Paul's running power from New Jersey. We have live coverage after we record the live show. You're all invited to participate that and come over there. But I hope you had a wonderful field day. For me, it's good. Anytime I set up portable, I have a mission of my own to kind of modify. There was a day, you guys may remember this, where you wanted everything in the kitchen sink and you needed 15 antennas just in case, and then and they were all in a case, and you had to take that, and you're taking a mile of coax, and there is part of it that sort of I want redundancy in what I have. I don't have 2 HF radios, but I've got 2 pieces of good coax. I've got a mast. I've got rope in case the mast would snap. I've snapped the mast. I don't want to talk about that right now. But, trying to pare down is a goal of mine. And then when I get everything up there, I feel like, cool, if this were an actual emergency, I would be ready to make a contact with somebody somewhere, and I'd have radio as my kit, as part of my kit. And then everything else is gravy, making the contacts. I get excited when I hear stations in states that I don't hear all the time, whether it's Delaware or South Dakota or Wyoming. You hear these stations and it's like, bing! Oh, come on, man. That could have been anything. It's like a talk show or something like that. So I heard, what was it, South Dakota, and I had to type it into Discord. I was like, hey guys, if you need South Dakota, I don't hear them often. Go check it out. Here's this, here's that. Okay. Let's see what else we want to talk about. Is there any other thing I want to talk about? No.
Great. David brought up a good question. He's like, why not use NetLogger during field day or contests to find out where the active nets are so you can avoid them?
Yeah. Good point, David. Whiskey 0 Tango Kilo X-Ray, you're 5'9". All right, want to tell you, if you're looking for a power solution, especially during times like this when we're portable, check out BioNO Power, offering the best lithium phosphate batteries for your ham radios. Visit bionopower.com. That's BIONNO. No, that's BIOENNO power.com. All right, we got some Hamfest we can talk about. Boy, the time certainly flies. But let me give you sexy time for Hamfest. Girl, I told you about my friend Scotty, right? About 75 feet up in the tree, girl. I don't know anybody that can do that. Hey.
How you doing? Have I told you about the Firecracker Hamfest happening?
Pennsylvania. Firecracker Hamfest, July 2nd, next weekend. It's ARRL Pennsylvania State Convention, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I might have to take a trip up there. It's only about an hour and 20-minute drive for me. That's happening next July 2nd, like I said, Saturday. And next Sunday, the Mergus Hamfest and Computer Fest, also in Pennsylvania. And this one in Plains, PA. Those are the only 2 ARRL-sponsored Hamfests that I saw for that weekend. So
all right, makes sense. Can you believe it is 4th of July? So 4th of July is like the kickoff for 13 Colonies. So that's a cool thing. I think that's what is that, the 3rd through the 8th or something like that.
The 1st kicks off Friday.
Oh, so I like that. Let me tell you a little bit of story. I told this before.
We'll double check on that while you're telling this.
Yeah, story. Check it. I thought it was like whatever. And, it's the week, and then it goes just past. And it's one of my favorite, man. The original 13 Colonies, a bit of a history buff, and just knowing about the Revolutionary War, things that happened all the way up and down from my home state of Maryland and Delaware to New Jersey. Significant things in New York happen all over the place. Well, my favorite time, and my mother would be saying, well, if it was your favorite time, hon, you'd be coming around here on the 4th of July every year, sit out on the deck and make the contacts. Vermont and everybody else, hon, they're right up there. Plus, we got the beach, and I need to see my babies. Where are my babies, my granddate babies? You know, and then continue to go into the guilt. The guilt will level me down and be like, oh, why did I bring it up? Lewis, Delaware is where my mom lives, or just outside of that town. Anywho, man, I spent, a week there, or whatever it was, on vacation a few years back. Took my radio. We drove out there, so I had all the accoutrement. That's a word.
What?
I had all the things I was telling you about trying to pare down in the back of my truck. You know, I think I took a bathing suit and a pair of socks and flip-flops. That's probably all I had room for after I packed out for this event.
Antennas.
Yeah, I had all this stuff, man, and I ended up using the one I used yesterday, which was this sort of model of the Pathfinder, which is another model of like a Wyndham antenna. Off-center fed, it fit in her yard, and I was like, cool, we'll do that. Bugs were trying to carry me away, y'all. I can tell you, those East Coast bugs don't play around, and the ones in Delaware this particular year, you were just steady smack, ow, ow, son of a pow, pow. I was like wishing we had a screened-in porch, but went down there and set up out on her patio out back, and man, it was the coolest feeling knowing where I was on the map, knowing what I was having a problem with, you know, which was Maryland, of course. It's so stupidly close to Delaware that I couldn't make the trip. Tried, couldn't get anybody, but I could get Massachusetts, I could get Vermont, I could get New Hampshire, I could get the others that were going up, I could get the Carolinas. But it was just one of my favorite. It was something in amateur radio, I think, that we're all looking for at some point, is a little bit of a push to get excited about. Many people get excited about Field Day. You know, I got a different feeling about Field Day. Route 66 is kind of cool. Like maybe if you were on Route 66 and you stopped in each state and worked and did something like a trip, maybe that would be kind of fun and cool. You'd probably get stabbed and murdered, and we read about you on the latest QST, but I don't know. Route 66 might be safe. It might be a weird thing to do. I don't know. It could be fun. Might be fun. I don't know. But working those states from within and going up and down the coast, man, it was just a blast. What you think about the 13 colonies, Scotty?
I love 13 colonies. It's actually, it was like one of the first, when I got into HF, one of the first sort of events like that, that it wasn't just like a one-day thing. It was kind of a drawn-out thing, like the Route 66 on the air. The 13 colonies I love. I've done it 3 years in a row. I have my they're one of the few certificates that I put on the wall in the shack of those sorts of things. And I'm looking at the website now, and yes, it does start at July 1st at 9 a.m. Eastern time. So that's Friday, July 1st, 9 a.m. through July 7 midnight is the 13 colonies this year. And there's the two bonus stations. There's the British one and the TM13 COL in France. So we have the French bonus station, of which I've never gotten any of the bonus stations in the 3 years so far. But this year's going to be different. If I have to go to my brother's and throw that dipole up at 75 feet,
I want you to.
I'm going to get the Atlantic colony or bonus stations. I mean,
can I tell you a little story about 13 colonies? My favorite story is the one I told you about being out at Mom's place, getting bit up by the bugs, getting the hepatitis or whatever the bug things were given out at the time, the Zika or whatever fun thing they were. I'm like, oh, this is disgusting. Blood all over me from smashing them. My blood squirting back on me. Like, oh, this is gross, man. What the hell? But anyway, I'm having a blast. I've done this from my home too. Now I'm not going to lie. I've got an amp. I've got an amplifier with my my ICOM radio in the shack, and 13 colonies came up. I'm just going to tell you the truth. And what did I do? I tuned this up, and I started banging. I was elbowing like Shaq on the rebound. Get out of the way. Kilo 0 Sierra Tango Hotel. Like, thank you, Connecticut. Thank you. You're 5'9", Connecticut. Look good,
Dropping
girl.
your testicular fortitude everywhere.
Man. You know, and what happened was I ended up working them. This isn't a brag fest, right? This is what I did. I went in there and I banged it out. Like in 2 days, I had them. I had them all of them. And I ran power. And I was like, you know what, man? And it started like on a Thursday or something, right? Like a Thursday or Friday. By like Saturday or Sunday, I don't remember what the days were, but I remember working inside and then having time. Geez, it could have been over the last couple of years too, where I didn't have anywhere to be. So I went up, I got them all in the shack. And, you know, yeah, you're 5'9", Massachusetts. Thanks, baby. You look great. See you later. I'm going to go chase another one. And it was kind of like, and I got through them, and I did it with power. And I'm like, you know what? Like, I need to challenge myself. And I went, I loaded out, took everything out to the old wooden shed, drove the truck, took the truck around, pulled up to the old wooden shed, unloaded it, and went from the 100 watts and the wire portable, jumped into the fray with all the struggle, all the JJ bags that are like me on the inside going, hey, man, what's going on? And I got suppressed and hands. But you know what? It gave me the best feeling to be able to work those. I actually I did it again. And I went out there, and I didn't get them all. I didn't get the overseas one. What was the one you said? It was COL. What's that, in France? Is that in France or something? I don't know where it is.
That's the French one.
I didn't get that one.
GV13 Colony, and then there was, what's the other one? I'm looking at my thing here on the wall. I can't read it.
Yeah, it's something like that.
Yeah.
I remember that one. There was one in Philadelphia that was like a special PEN one, maybe. And I remember getting almost everything. It took me so much longer. It felt so good to actually work it the hard way, so to speak. But I didn't get the French station, and I'm not sure if I got the British station, but I think I did. So, yeah, not bragging, but, you know, it is fun to challenge yourself and throw in 1,000 watts into the fray. You know, I felt like you better go do something, man. You better get back out there and put that antenna up. Do it. And that's what I did. That's my other 13 colonies. So I kind of enjoy working them with 100 watts if I can do that.
Yeah, I think someone from our community is going to be the WM3PEN Pennsylvania station. Cheesecake Steve, I believe.
Cheesecake Steve.
Is going to be. I think I saw him mention that in the Discord that he was going to be WM3 Pen this year. In some regard, I'm not certain, but I'm pretty sure he mentioned that. So that's pretty cool. Cheesecake.
I don't know if there's rules against posting that sort of stuff. I doubt it very seriously. But if you're a member of our Discord, you'll see things like that when special event operators are in there. You know, they may post where they're operating and give you a little heads up. So you're welcome to join us there. It's a small group. It's pretty intimate. So go ahead and do that. There was a question from James, and thank you for that. He wants to know when I'm going to do the first Hour 73 podcast. That's Kilo Golf 5, Lima Tango Lima. Things are being... Oh, yeah, you're 5'9". Thank you, Rick. Thank you. I forgot to let him know his signal report. Things are going well with the preparation for that. You need to, have an infrastructure ready and built up. And podcasting is not the cheapest of things. It's cheaper than video, that's for sure. Like radio is cheaper than television. But we have a website now, hour73.com, HOUR73.com. Check it out. You can join our emergency information team. Right now we have 18 states represented. Once Scotty gets his name on the list. See, I already know he's there because he's running around with me anyway. But we don't have Maryland yet technically on the list. But we do have technically on the list. So we've got 19 states represented. And the idea for this is twofold. I want to do a podcast where we sit and talk, much like last night. Last night when we streamed, we talked about gardening. We talked about seeds. Yeah, we were doing an amateur radio podcast. Well, it was a live stream last night. And... during field day, and we're talking about seeds and companies to buy seeds and how you do, and because we're more than amateur radio operators, we get into other different aspects. And some people are doing homesteading, and people look back at the pioneers and what they did and how they took care of themselves. So Hour 73 is not specifically an amateur radio podcast at all. I know and you know that radio is an essential part of your emergency plans. But, everybody that'll be checking out Hour 73 may not be as hip to amateur radio. So I will slowly teach them how that's an asset in their skills, building our skills, trying to rebuild the community. Hour73.com. You're welcome to join us. I'd love to. Part 2 of this is when I think what's best, and I'm going to talk to the team about this, is to go live and share information during like a state of emergency. When there's something happening that becomes a state of emergency, that's probably the trigger for us to go live. And this is when the emergency information team, who are people who are interested, can help me as I anchor this. I'll give you the air quotes, I'll anchor, because it'll be me. I won't be able to surf around as much. I'll have people giving information. We'll try to get accurate information. Stay away from the politics and the religion of preparedness, and just deal with the facts of what's happening, although those aspects lead us to become preppers, or however you prepare, homesteaders, growing your own food, that sort of thing. So that's what it's going to be. I want to get away from the doom and gloom. I've been really kind of concerned with the amount of doom and gloom that's happening. Sure, we've got a lot of things going on in the world. It's complicated. At the shell, you want to think of your community, and you want to think about your family. Maybe you want to grow some food. Maybe you want to learn some practical skills. Our children aren't even learning how to balance a checkbook anymore in school. So, and that's kind of sad. Everybody in my generation, Scotty's not too much younger, we were right to computers. They were like, this is the generation that must go to computers now. And so some of these things were kind of lost in school systems. That's a long way around saying, I think the original question was, when are you going to start recording the podcast? D-Bag. Very soon. I'm going to sit with the team here any minute, and the plan is to talk about the things that were happening out in Montana when I was there, start talking about the floods, how that was. Look at, imagine, this is the busiest time of the year in Yellowstone. Imagine this happens, the snow melts on a normal rainy day, flooded out, infrastructure washes away, you are trapped. It's not doom and gloom. As far as I know, no one died, but they were stuck. They had to boil water. They had to be flown out in some cases, and they were stuck. And there were talks of shortages there in that scenario. So I think that's where we'll talk. We'll talk about flooding. Scotty's going to join me over there and talk about it. No better person to know about flooding. This guy's living it and studying it as it comes. So, yeah, I hope that helps you out. Please join us over there. You can poke around the website. We'd love to have more communities, more states represented. That way we'll have information, if anything, when something happens in your state, you'll know where to go. You know your officials, you know your government, you know who we could call. Or if you're stuck, we'll have another team, this network that may be able to help get some information to that area. So it's a big project, and I don't want to jump into it and then have to pause it for some silly reason. I want to think it out. But we're close. Thank you for that, James. All right, man. Thank you for that. I don't know. Is there anything else I forgot to say?
Yeah.
Okay. I did want to say, programming note-wise, Sundays we record this at 6 o'clock Central Time. You're welcome to join us. You can come into the chat, drop your questions, and sometimes that will actually narrate where we go in the show. So you're always welcome to join us. We live stream it out on YouTube. It doesn't live up there. It ends up going to the podcast. But what we do after this, Scotty and I will, what he lovingly refers to as drain the main vein. Damn, she's good. She's getting so fast. She's so fast that she can anticipate my setup. We'll go take a leak, and then we'll come back here and join Don and Uncle Paul as they kick off the net. What are you running now? You've kind of you've been flirting with a new digital mode. Yeah,
I've been messing around with JS8 call, so I may play with that a little bit, or I'm going to try something in FT8 to see if I get around that issue I've been having. I want to test that out a little bit as well. But I'm looking at the Discord. I see Don and Paul are they're staging themselves. They're ready. They're getting ready to kick off for the net and get logged into the stream. And yeah, I'll be here, and I'll be probably futzing around with a couple digital modes while we do our thing.
Yep, we have a good time. You're welcome to join us here. That part does stay up on YouTube. The coverage, live coverage of the 100 Watts in a Wire Sunday Evening Net is headed your way if you are watching us live. If you're not, please join us next Sunday, 6 o'clock. My final for you is a question. I want to know what you're struggling with. Down below in the description, there are some links down there. One is to contact us here. And if you're struggling with anything now, let us know what it is. The link is down below. And maybe we can start to talk about it and help you get some practical solutions, whether it's ham radio related or whatever. Maybe you've got a neighbor who's giving you the business about your antennas. You know, this happens. You got an HOA, and then people are struggling through those issues. But what are you struggling with right now? And if not, cool. We'll be here for you. But in the description of the podcast down below, you can find the contact information and drop us a line. We want to know how we may be able to help you. All right, Scotty, I think we have done it again. Did we miss anything? We can do a quick roll call. I see Tony. Remember Romper Room? Do you guys remember Romper Room? There's another drop for you. We got to get to Miss Nancy. Do you guys remember the Romper Room?
Man.
I see Scotty and Tony and Randy, all these Y names. Big Pappy is here. And Ron. Hello, Ron. Good to see you. So DJ and James. I'm doing this, and Greg and David. It's all for real. But thanks for stopping by. If you were here for that, stick around for our friends who did come by for the to watch throughout the evening. It's a great time for us to get together with our community, hang out, end the week, and give us a little wind in our sails as we head into a new work week. So I will say 73 and wish you all the best for this week. 73 to you, Scotty.
73, Kristen, and everyone have a great week.
To join the 100 Watts in a Wire community, visit 100wattsinaWire.com.